But now I meet my wife, and we're both 24, and I actually saw another path. And I saw something good in her that I had never seen in myself that I wanted. And I was like, the only way to turn is to God. So we're two 24-year-old kids, decide to get married after 2 weeks of meeting each other. And that was crazy. And she has a beautiful Italian family. And they think I'm great. They don't know anything about my history. And we're talking about getting married. And so you can imagine it's an Italian family. We go there every Sunday and have delicious food. And her and her mother go dress shopping for the wedding. And I mean, they're booking the event. Okay. So I'm under this extreme stress of like telling my fiance, I'm going to prison. Sorry, let me just shut that off. I'm going to prison. I don't think you realize that I'm going to prison because I'm caught red-handed for this armed robbery, and I've already have a lengthy record, and there's no way I'm getting out of it. And really, there was no way. So I knew that, and I was okay with that until I met my wife. And I'm like, now I'm not okay with it. So where do you turn? The only person that can save me was God. And because I had an understanding of God, I just started going to Catholic church. And I'm just sitting in the back pew. I'm not listening to anything the priest is saying. I didn't even want to walk in the door. I didn't want anybody to see me because I wasn't sure I wanted to be committed to going to church. I was just looking for God. Amen. So I'm talking quick because we have a lot to get to. And my testimony could probably take up multiple podcasts. But she basically was like, okay, you're this tough guy, armed robber, selling drugs, robbing drug dealers. And she kind of liked that. But you know, was like 24. Okay, she's like a young 24-year-old girl. It's like, he's a great guy, and everybody's like,
he sells drugs. What could go wrong?
Right. So I remember she hung around with some people that did some things too, and it was Boston, the city life. She wasn't perfect, and I remember her telling her friends that she met a guy, and they were like, oh, who is it? And she was like, Bobby Talbot. And they were like, Bobby Talbot, the armed robber from South Boston? Stay away from him. And these are people that sell drugs. so it was like, she was like, well, he's really great though, you know? So that's where we were at. And so when I started going to church, she was like, not going to church with me. And I'm just every Sunday. So what happened is I'd sit in that pew and it was like I had peace for an hour. Not listening to anything. I'm just talking to God about the court case, about getting married, about my life. And I'm 24 years old. But I started to really get drawn into that peace because when I would leave there, the stress of actually going to jail, and at one point I was fine with going to jail. And now I'm not fine with going to jail. So I've been in jail before where you're fine with it, but when you go to jail and you're not fine with it, it's way worse. Because there's an element that you kind of embrace as a criminal where, you know, you'll see this where people are kind of boast about doing time, which is ridiculous. They're like, oh, I did 10 years sitting on my head. It's like, I don't want to boast about that, you know, but when you get in that like mindset, you accept it and you're actually fine with sitting in a prison. So I lived like that at one point, but now I was not like that because I actually wanted to get married. So there was like now stress coming upon me. It's the Lord. But I also have the stress of sitting with her family and them not knowing anything about me. And we're planning a wedding and putting money towards it and sending out invitations. And I'm like, I'm going to jail. So I just kept asking God. And the key point I want to zero in on this part is that nobody prayed a prayer with me. Nobody told me I needed to get saved. Nobody brought Jesus into my life. I just said to Jesus, I don't want you to fix my problems. I want you to fix me.